Who are the best teams in the NFL Preseason edition? What's going on, football fans? It's Mitch here, back with another NFL rankings video. This time, I'm ranking the best of the best, the top 10 NFL teams right now in early August. We're in training camp. We're right in the middle, the thick of things. Preseason for each and every NFL team is about to begin. We had the Hall of Fame game, so now it's time to give you my NFL power rankings, my top 10 teams in the NFL. And because it's only 10, instead of the last few videos where we've been ranking 32 players, teams, units, we can actually dive into these teams and what I like and what I dislike about the best teams in the NFL. In the comment section, guys, let me know how you feel about my list. I would say that my top 5, I feel very confident about. I would say that my number 10 team is a tier below the rest of the list. And I feel like the range of 6 to 9 is very interchangeable. So now that you have that, and you understand where I'm at, let's break down the list, guys. And let me know in the chat how you're doing, how you're feeling about the best teams in the NFL. So let's begin with the 10th best team in the NFL entering 2024. I have the New York Jets at number 10. Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. Now, hopefully Aaron Rodgers makes it past the first series of the first game. Hopefully, right? But the New York Jets, I feel like by some people are being underrated because they just don't want to admit how talented this team is. And I think there's other people that may be overrating the team. So they're kind of a weird team to think about. I think the area that they're overrating is Aaron Rodgers. I think the area that they're underrating is the actual roster around Aaron Rodgers. Like Aaron Rodgers in 2022 did not have his best year. He was coming off of back-to-back MVP campaigns. He didn't have the playoff success he was searching for, but he didn't lead the Packers to the playoffs. It was his last ride, and he ended up leaving the Jets. And then we see a year later, Jordan Love takes over for Rodgers. He leads that nearly same identical roster to the playoffs and a playoff win. So it's not like Aaron Rodgers is really playing at peak MVP powers any longer, but he's still a good player. And what I think Aaron Rodgers does bring to the offense is first accuracy, touch on the football, rhythm and timing, things that they have not had in recent seasons or at all for years. I think he brings control of the game, no matter where the game is at home, away. He just understands how to control the pace of a game. The offense, checking at the line, audibling at the line, understanding what the defense is giving him and how to maximize his offense. He's also going to bring the Aaron Rodgers approach that I think is going to be not a lot of motion, not a lot of play action, very stagnant, but it's going to be playmakers, right? Playmakers over plays. I'm looking forward to seeing Garrett Wilson within this offense and that connection. I think he'll get a lot of targets and I think he'll have a huge year. Breece Hall, I think, is already one of the legit elite running backs in the NFL. And for some reason, not enough people recognize this. I think they're about to recognize it this year. He's a guy that's capable of catching 70 passes. He's a guy that's capable of rushing for 1,000 yards, right? The offensive line is the biggest area of improvement. Tyron Smith on the left now brings a legitimate left tackle, a legitimate blindside protector for Aaron Rodgers. My problem with the team last year, the entire time, the entire offseason leading up to that injury was the protection for Aaron Rodgers. It was not the best. It was not ideal. Now you have Tyron Smith on the left. You've got Morgan Moses on the right, a guy that graded as a top 12 tackle in football, according to PFF last year, and has been legitimately on the field pretty much every year of his career and has never missed games and has been very, very solid no matter where he's played, Baltimore, Washington, wherever it may be, right? Then you've got on the inside, Elijah Vera Tucker returns. Hopefully he can stay healthy. An ascending young center and John Simpson also signing from Baltimore. So that is 3, maybe even 4 new starters on the offensive line. Tyler Conklin is a capable tight end. He's fine, right? The big X factor for me on this offense is Mike Williams. If Mike Williams can stay healthy, he provides a deep threat, somebody that can stretch the field, somebody that can win contested catches, somebody that can just be a field stretcher, a vertical threat, somebody that can win in the red zone on 3rd down when Garrett Wilson is being double teamed. That is kind of the area I'm concerned about. If Mike Williams is injured, I think they lack receiving talent, even with Malachi Corley and all that. Alan Lazard, I'm not a huge fan of at this point. I just feel like they don't have an elite receiving core. But if Mike Williams is there and healthy, it could be pretty promising. Obviously, they have one of the best defenses in football, one of the deepest defensive lines. I expect Jermaine Johnson to have a huge year. I think that Hassan Reddick has had a weird offseason, but I think as long as he's out there playing, he'll be good. Javon Kinlaw's interesting. And then obviously you've got Quinnen Williams, one of the best linebacker duos in football, one of the best corner trios in football. In my opinion, the best corner in football, Sauce Gardner. So yes, they have a complete team, offensively, defensively. What they're missing is elite coaching, in my opinion. I think Robert Saleh does a decent job, if not a good job, on defense. He still struggles a little bit with game management, and I think that will be tested in big games this year. But the offense is really going to have to be in rhythm, and it's going to come from Aaron Rodgers. I think it's going to be Rodgers' offense. Hackett's going to sprinkle in whatever, Rodgers wants to have out there, and then it's going to be Saleh's defense. And that's kind of the mesh that I'm looking for, right? So at number 10, I have the New York Jets elite roster. It just kind of comes down to, can they be healthy on offense, the offensive line, and can Rodgers find, Mike Williams on the field, Garrett Wilson, and then also at the same time, right, can everything come together with this coaching staff? So they're at number 10. Now at number 9, I'm going to have a little bit of a shocking entry here at number 9. I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens at number 9, and I'm going to explain why I'm lower on the Ravens than a majority, if not everybody. And the reason is, I like Lamar. Don't get me wrong. He's the MVP. First things first, though, Lamar has missed some games in recent years. And I would not be shocked if that happened again. Now, I'm not projecting that. That's not a reason I have them at number 9. I'm just saying if they do fall to a wild card position because of health, I wouldn't be shocked. The biggest reason I'm down on the Ravens, there's 2 reasons. The offensive line is number 1. They have 3 new starters on the offensive line, including their right tackle, including their right guard, and including their left guard. Lamar does make his protection better, but he's also a quarterback that likes to hold onto the ball and create, and he needs time to do that. And if you've watched Lamar's career, he's had 2 MVP seasons, and the 2 seasons he was an MVP, he had the best offensive lines of his career, in my personal opinion. The other seasons, his offensive lines have not been as good. Ronnie Stanley at left tackle is a constant injury concern as well. So you throw in an injury concern on the left. The only real reliable player on the offensive line is Tyler Linderbaum. I like Mark Andrews. I love Zay Flowers, and I think Derrick Henry is going to help them. But the other area I'm very concerned is the lack of coaching now on defense. They lost 3 defensive coaches. They lost 2 position coaches in the front of the defense, on the defensive line, and the back of the defense in the secondary. One is going to be the Dolphins defensive coordinator. One is going to be the Titans defensive coordinator. And then obviously they lost the best defensive coordinator in the NFL, Mike McDonald, to the Seattle Seahawks. They also lost Geno Stone, Jadeveon Clowney, and they also lost Patrick Queen. So they lost a key impactful player at every level of their defense. That's concerning. So I still think the Ravens are an elite team because they have one of the best quarterbacks in the league, the MVP. They have enough weaponry, although it's not overwhelming, to make a lot of plays. And their defense is still going to be top 10. I just don't think it's going to be absolutely dominant like it was last year. They still got Roquan. They still got Kyle Hamilton, Justin Madubuike, right? Marlon Humphrey. They still got Marcus Williams, a bunch of ballers. But I think they will take a step back this year, and that's why I have them at number 9. A lot of it to do with the O-line and the coaching. At number 8, A team that I also feel like a lot of people overrate, and they kind of forget what happened at the end of last year, but I feel like they're very talented, and I can't quite get my finger on them as to what they're going to be in 2024. And their upside does scare me for putting them at number 8, but their downside is also that they could not even, win this division like I expect. So at number 8, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, what I love about the Eagles is I love their offensive line. I think it's one of the best in football. I love their receiving core with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert. I think Saquon is really going to add both to the run and the pass game. And also just like from a motivation standpoint, I think he's going to bring a spark to the team from a leadership capacity outside of Jalen Hurts. I think he'll keep everybody on task and get everybody motivated, especially because he's never really been on a good team before. They still got the studs like Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata on the O-line, Landon Dickerson, right? So they're going to be really good on offense as long as Kellen Moore can hone in on what's most effective for this offense. I am more down on Jalen Hurts after what we saw over the back half of last season. I think that some people just rank him way too high. I just think he struggles with the blitz. He struggles with, certain coordinators that understand how to attack him, whether it's like funneling him out to the right side of the pocket, getting him on the move and forcing him to throw that way, or just kind of rattling him with different looks and coverage, because he seems to be a pretty, happy to hold on to the ball very often and try to create that way. And also, if he's thrown off his first read, he kind of seems to be a little bit just juggling a lot of thoughts at the same time. He feels a little bit all over the place late last year, but he's also an athletic specimen. He's a great runner, and he is capable of having great games like we saw in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. So I also love him off the field. Defensively, I think they're flawed, but they're also really talented. Like Vic Fangio is going to come in. I think he's going to solve some things. He's going to help, definitely. But I also feel like Vic Fangio is not the Fangio that we think of from like 4 or 5 years ago. So don't mistake that. But I think that they have really good players in certain spots. Jalen Carter, Josh Sweat, right? Even like Huff to a certain degree. He's an amazing pass rusher. I think he's limited as a run defender. I think that, I'm excited for Quinyon Mitchell. I'm excited for Cooper DeJean as rookies. I think they'll be good players, especially Mitchell. I'm not sure about DeJean in year 1, but we'll see. I think that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson or CJ Gardner-Johnson is going to come in and really, reinvigorate some toughness and some grit to this defense if he can stay healthy. And Darius Slay is still capable, a good player, but I am also concerned about their run defense, considering, how they tackled last year and the size of their edge rushers and the ability. Like Huff is not a good run defender. Nolan Smith's kind of undersized. The interior defensive line is a little bit different without Fletcher Cox in there. Milton Williams, they got Jordan Davis, but Jordan Davis hasn't exactly lived up to expectations. Their linebackers are pretty underwhelming, led by Devin White. Their safeties are just okay. Reed Blankenship's kind of slow, in my opinion. Their corners, hopefully James Bradbury does not play. And their nickel corner maybe is a little suspect. So they've got small holes and things that I look at and I can nitpick a little bit. But they've got a very explosive, potentially really good ball control offense. I'm intrigued to see the spin Kellen Moore puts on it. But at number 8, I have the Eagles. At number 7, I have the Buffalo Bills. I feel very good about the Bills. I think a lot of people think the Bills are going to take a step back. But when I think about the Bills, I think about a team that has a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. And I just feel a lot of security in that. With the Eagles, I feel like they could have a top 5 offense, but I also feel like they could be like a top 20 defense. Like they could fall, and be like, because last year they were like the worst defense I've ever seen at the end of the year. So there's things about the Eagles that are inconsistent. With the Bills, like people forget that the Bills won every game after their bye week until they faced the Chiefs in the divisional round, and they lost by like basically they missed a field goal, which would have forced the game to overtime almost. So like, the Bills were really good late last year, and it's basically going to be the same team this year, except, they've had more time to grow with Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator. I think they're going to morph into a more run-heavy team. They've got arguably, the most talented quarterback in the league that's capable of taking over games by himself, and he's probably the second best quarterback in the league, so that also gives me a lot of thought in Josh Allen. I think their receiving core is being underrated. You know, they added Coleman, who's been looking good in training camp through the the draft, obviously. Curtis Samuel's always been an underrated player who can do a lot of different things. Khalil Shakir had like the highest yards per target in the NFL last year. So they've got enough, and Dalton Kincaid in year 2 should take a major jump. I'm also a huge fan of James Cook. So I think their weaponry is being underrated because they did lose Stephon Diggs. They've got a good offensive line. And I think the play caller and the quarterback relationship will be a lot more in sync this year. Defensively, they're always very solid under Sean McDermott, but people forget that they lost a bunch of players late last year. Like Matt Milano, he's back, right? Their linebacking core is very solid and very deep. Their cornerback group is very good and very deep. Rasul Douglas, Christian Benford, Teron Johnson, and also Khair Elam apparently is looking really good in camp. The safety position is different, and that could be maybe a point of emphasis for a weakness. But Cole Bishop's a promising rookie. I like Mike Edwards. I like Taylor Rapp, and they also added Kareem Jackson. So those things should come together. They should find a combination that works. Von Miller apparently looks more like Von Miller, which would be a huge boost to them, especially after losing Leonard Floyd. But we know that they have Ed Oliver, Gregory Rousseau up front. So their D-line is very, very solid. I think that they're not an overwhelmingly talented team, but what I love about them is they have a legit elite quarterback, a proven winning coach who really coaches a good schematical defense, and I think they'll run the ball really well. So I just feel like they don't have a lot of holes. They're not overwhelming, but they don't have a lot of holes, and they could beat anybody. I mean, how many games have they lost by like more than one score in recent seasons? Like almost like 0, like 1, 2. That's it. So at number 7, the Bills. At number 6, I have the Green Bay Packers, which is going to be like the shocking. People are going to say they're overrated in the chat, but let me know what you guys think. I have the Green Bay Packers at number 6. I am very high on the Packers this year. I think the Packers are going to take a huge leap forward, and I think they could be a legitimate contender this year, meaning they could go to the Super Bowl or at least the NFC Championship. I think you look at this team, and I think the biggest thing they did this offseason was improve their defense through a scheme change. And the scheme that will be brought in through the former Boston College coach is more of a San Francisco-esque scheme, which is, I think, better for their pass rush, better for their athletes. When you think about this defense, they're going to be a lot faster. I think they're going to play a lot more in tune with each other. And they formerly, with Barry, it was one of the worst coordinated defense in football, despite all the talent they had. I think their defense is going to take a major leap because of the scheme change, and they already have the talent. I think their D-line is very talented and very deep as well. I think it's the deepest D-line they've had in a long time, right? Rashawn Gary is really good. Kenny Clark is really good. Devontae Wyatt's on the rise. Lucas Van Ness is year 2. I like guys like Brooks in the mix as well, right? They've got layers upon layers. So Preston Smith is also still there. Linebackers, I think that Edgerrin Cooper was a nice draft pick to go alongside Quay Walker. I wish they had a little bit more depth there, but I think they're pretty solid, especially in this new defense where both those guys are super athletic, Cooper and Walker, and playing that Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner style, I think is going to be a lot more loose for them and a lot more effective. And this could be a big year for Quay Walker. I could see him having a huge season. Xavier McKinney really kind of brings the secondary together. As long as Alexander is healthy, you know, it would be a bonus if they had their cornerback 2 healthy as well. Stokes, who's been up and down and all over the place throughout his career in terms of injuries. But if they have those 2 guys on the field, they actually have a really good cornerback group. It's just that they're never actually healthy. So if they have some health and they scheme change, I feel like they could be a borderline top 10 defense, going along with a very balanced offense. Jordan Love is a playmaker from within the pocket, from without the pocket, you know, outside the pocket. He can really release the ball under pressure, you know, outside from a different angle all the time. Josh Jacobs, I think, provides some power running to their backfield. Their O-line's always good. Matt LaFleur is one of the best coordinators and one of the best coaches in football on offense. And their receiving core is awesome. I mean, they've got so many different guys that it can attack you, and they're all young, and they're all ascending, and they're all hitting the right time. It reminds me of the 2010, 2011 Packers, where they had a bunch of guys at the same time that were really hitting their stride, right? They've got Christian Watson, who I think is going to have a huge year. Jaden Reed, who's a wicked slot player. Romeo Dobbs is a great jump ball, back shoulder, kind of red zone target. And Dontavius Wicks, I always forget his first name. Wicks is a really, really savvy player. He's actually been compared to Devontae Adams by Matt LaFleur. So, they've got a lot of different looks at their receiving core. And Luke Musgrave is super athletic at tight end. Don't forget about him. So, yeah, I just really like this young team. I think they're really going to take a step forward. It's hard to envision them being the sixth best team based on last year. But if you watch them at the back half of last year, what they've added this offseason, the potential jumps their young players can make, the coaching that they have, it makes sense that they could be a really good team this year. Entering the top 5 at number 5, the Detroit Lions. I have the Lions at number 5. I debated number 4, but I feel better about number 5. And it's just that I feel better about the number 4 quarterback, the number 4 team's quarterback. And so that was the difference. I like Jared Goff, don't get me wrong, but he's not an overwhelmingly carry the team quarterback, if you know what I mean. He's just a good quarterback that I think is really effective in Ben Johnson's offense. And the number 1 security about the Lions for me on my list is I love their offensive scheme. I think they run the ball on anybody, whether it be outside or inside. They've got 2 really good running backs. Jahmyr Gibbs could have a massive season this year. Sam Laporta is already one of the best tight ends in football. Amon-Ra is probably the best pure slot receiver in the league. And, Jameson Williams could also have a huge impact on this offense. I think guys like Khalif Raymond, Donovan Peoples-Jones, they're a little bit slept on in what they could also add as the number 3 now that Josh Reynolds is gone. The O-line's amazing, led by the best center in the league and arguably the best right tackle in the league in Sewell, right? The defense, I think, improved pretty thoroughly at all levels pretty much. Other than linebacker, they didn't really add anything, but they got a lot better at corner. Carlton Davis really helps. Terrion Arnold, first-round pick, helps. Emmanuel Mosley to add a layer of depth. He's back, and Amik Robertson from the Raiders. So they've added 4 different corners to this roster that should really help them, along with the young ascending safeties they have. Maybe Jack Campbell can take a step forward. Alex Anzalone's underrated. DJ Reader was added to go alongside McNeil. That's an awesome D-tackle combo. So the Lions really have a lot fewer holes than last year, which makes me feel very good. They're an elite run offense. They're an elite run defense, and they can make enough plays in the passing game on both sides to be a Super Bowl winning team. So at number 5, the Lions are biting kneecaps. Just going to take a quick look to the chat just to see if anybody's saying anything, but we're going to continue to go at the end. I'm going to answer any questions that you guys want to, talk about. You don't think that Amon-Ra is the best slot receiver? Who do you think is the best slot receiver in the league? Let me know in the chat. Bearcats got Chiefs, Niners, Lions, Ravens, Eagles, Bengals, Packers, Jets, Bills. That's pretty much the same teams that I have. It's just in different order. Let's get to number 4, guys, on the list. Number 4 on the list is the Cincinnati Bengals. I got the Bengals at number 4, and I've kind of contemplated the Bengals anywhere from number 3 to number 5 within that range. I think the Bengals, the way their schedule sets up, I think they could be the number 1 seed in the AFC this year. I know that their division is really difficult, but actually, if you look at their schedule, it's not that difficult, especially early in the year. It's nice to see that Joe Burrow is going to be playing in the preseason just a little bit to get his kinks out, so to speak, sort of some of the things that he will need to work on as he returns from injury. He's been looking good in camp from what I've seen. The offensive line is the reason for optimism with the Bengals, in my opinion. I think it's the best offensive line the Bengals have ever had with Joe Burrow. They have an awesome tackle trio, not just duo, but Orlando Brown, Trent Brown, massive human beings, alongside first-round pick Amarius Mims is extremely promising. If Trent Brown has to miss a game or two, which he's prone to do as a Patriots fan, I know this, but he's an amazing player when he plays. So they have a very good trio there. The offensive line, I think, is going to be able to get their run game going, and I wouldn't be shocked if Chase Brown had a massive breakout season at running back. I like the addition of Mike Gesicki. I think that some of these receivers, like Burton and others, Irwin, could really take steps forward within the offense. Obviously, Jamar Chase is one of the best receivers in the league. T. Higgins, if he's healthy, is an excellent number 2. And their offense, I just love the feel of it. There's some comfiness to watching Joe Burrow in the pocket, deliver the ball on time with rhythm, the way that he controls the game. I think he just understands how to play quarterback and how to win games. There's a difference between making a lot of plays and also just winning games. Like Joe Burrow just understands when to make a big throw, when to kind of like check it down, when to kind of like get the drive started, when to scramble. Like there's just a feel with Joe Burrow where he is just, when he's in the zone, he's basically like, to me, like the only guy that is maybe better, like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are in that same tier to me, but like there's just this throwback nature to Joe Burrow's game where it almost feels like you're watching Peyton Manning or you're watching Tom Brady or Drew Brees. Like, so to me, I just love watching Joe Burrow in this offense when they're at their peak. They're just a lot of fun. And then defensively, I think they'll be better this year. They were very bad last year at times, but I think the D-line is deeper. I love Trey Hendrickson. Sam Hubbard is a good player. I think that the interior duo of Rankins and Hill are very solid, and they've got a pretty good depth chart. Murphy enters year 2 as a first-round pick. That will be interesting to watch. They added a couple D tackles in the draft. The linebackers, Wilson and Pratt, have been alongside each other for years, and they've, led this defense to a Super Bowl. I'm not concerned about them. The safeties are much better now this year. They've got about 4 safeties that could start for them, but I think Geno Stone kind of helps replace what they lost in Jesse Bates a year ago, and they never replaced him last year, but he's an interception-free safety machine. And you add back Von Bell as the strong safety, who's just a very nice security blanket at strong safety. He can do everything. And then the cornerback depth chart, Cam Taylor-Britt's an underrated player. Mike Hilton's one of the best nickels in the league. It's really that other perimeter spot that has a question, which Turner should be able to step up, but we'll see. But the Bengals, I feel very good about their offense. I feel very good about Burrow this year. I feel very good about the vibes coming from the team. They're hungry. They're ready to rock. I think they're going to go out there and they're going to dominate. I think this is going to be a Super Bowl caliber team. At number 3, I've got the Houston Texans. This might be too high for people, but I really feel like the Texans have everything I look for, and I'm just not going to allow anybody to persuade me in a different direction. The Texans just have it. They have CJ Stroud, who actually gives me and brings me Joe Burrow like aura. Like this guy, the way he plays, he creates within the pocket and outside the pocket, his accuracy, his ability to make big throws down the field, his ability to just make everybody around him better. I think Stroud is a special player. And so it all starts with him. But I think the offensive line should be healthier this year. Laramie Tunzel, Shaq Mason are the 2 main components for me. We'll see how Titus Howard returns from injury. I think he's expected to play right tackle this year. They've got a reliable tight end in Dalton Schultz, a good running back now in Joe Mixon. That's an upgrade for them. A trio of receivers that could be all extremely dynamic and the best receiver in any game they play. Nico Collins, I think, is like the most underrated receiver and maybe player in the NFL. Stephon Diggs is still really, really good, especially as a route runner. And you look at Tank Dell, and that guy is explosive, man. And that's a scary trio. And then Noah Brown is the 4. That's like a really good number 4. So this offense is just, they can beat you in any which way. I think that they are one of those offenses that can outscore any team in the league. The Niners, the Chiefs, the Bengals, the Lions. If they have to play a shootout, they can win it, right? Defensively, they have a really good coach in D'Amico Ryans, who's a really good defensive schemer. He upgraded this defense last year, and he led the number 1 unit in San Francisco in 2022, right? Don't forget about that. Danielle Hunter is an awesome addition alongside Will Anderson. That's one of the best edge rushes in football. Danico Autry is suspended, but he'll come back and really help. The linebackers, I think they improved with Al-Shaair alongside, a really good young player as well in Christian Harris. They've got a solid safety duo and some pretty good depth in the secondary overall. I'm looking forward to seeing Derek Stingley this year. He could make a huge leap. And I just feel very good about this team. Like, I don't think there's any holes. I think they're a lot like the Bengals, except they have maybe a little bit more at receiver and a little bit more on defense. Like, I feel a little bit better about their pass rush. I feel a little bit better about their corners, maybe. But, like, they're very similar to Cincy. Cincy has more of a proven track record. But, man, it's hard to deny what Stroud showed in year one and just expecting a year two leap from what he has around him. So, at number 3, the Texans. At number 2, who I almost put at number 1, because I honestly feel like they're probably a better team entering this year than the Chiefs, but I have the Niners at number 2. The Niners are basically the same team as last year. They just basically got better. Like, honestly, they just got better in terms of depth in the secondary and players at corner. They added a second-round pick in Green. They added Yadam out of New Orleans. So a couple different, and Rock Yassin as well. So they added 3 different corners to help them out. They got Hufanga back at safety. They added Malik Mustafa at safety as well from the draft, who I'm excited for. They did lose Dre Greenlaw to an injury, but he'll return at some point, right? They added Devondre Campbell at linebacker. They swapped Chase Young for Leonard Floyd, which is fine. I think that's upgrade, to be honest. Eric Armstead for Malik Collins. That might be a slight decline, but also at the same time, probably a healthier version. So I look at this defense and I say they're probably going to be better because Steve Wilkes is gone. I thought he was bad for them. He didn't work out for them. He wasn't a good coordinator for them. They were always concerned about him. And I think that the defensive coordinator with Brandon Staley helping out and a guy that, Sorensen, that's been upgraded to defensive coordinator, I think that's going to be better for them. I think the offensive line added a draft pick, and they're the same unit overall. The receivers, they just got deeper with Ricky Pearsall, and Ayuk, I think, is going to stay. I'm not worried about that too much. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brock Purdy looking jacked, and he's actually healthy. Kyle Shanahan's one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in the league. Team just has everything. I don't know what to say. They're the best offense in the league. They were last year in pretty much every metric, and their defense is top 10. So the Niners could definitely win the Super Bowl. And the number 1 team is the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are the number 1 team. They're Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid. The core is intact. They've got the best interior trio on the offensive line in football. They've got Isaiah Pacheco. They improved their receiving core. Worthy has been having some interesting, negatives and positives at camp. I see him constantly catching some deep passes, but then also, that one clip of him being absolutely pressed to oblivion is a little concerning. Rashee Rice, we'll find out what happens there. If he's playing the whole year, he's going to have a huge year. And Marquise Brown just adds like a layer of veteran security at the receiver position they didn't have last year compared to somebody like Marquise Valdez-Scantling. So they should be more dynamic on offense. The defense is very, very solid. They did get a little worse, in my opinion, this offseason just because Charles Omenihu will be out for a while. L'Jarius Sneed is, obviously a huge loss. He's one of the best corners in the league. But I think that they have competent backups, replacing those guys in Williams and Watson. Obviously, you've got McDuffie. They get Cook back at safety. Their linebackers are very good. I think they have one of the best linebacker trios in the league. Tranquil, Chanel, and obviously Bolton. And then the D-line, Karlaftis could be another step forward. Mike Dana's a good player. So they've got a really good defense, awesome coaching, the best coaching staff in the league from an offense and defense standpoint. Spags, Andy Reid, right? Best quarterback in the league, best tight end in the league, best D tackle in the league. They're the Chiefs. They're the back-to-back champs. They could go three-peat, but I don't, it's hard to three-peat. It's really hard to three-peat. So that's my list, guys. Just to recap it real quick before I get to the comments, and guys, make sure you get those comments in right now. I've got the Chiefs at number 1, the Niners at number 2, the Texans at number 3, the Bengals at number 4, the Lions at number 5, the Packers at number 6, the Buffalo Bills at number 7, the Philadelphia Eagles at number 8, the Baltimore Ravens at number 9, and the New York Jets at number 10. My honorable mention is the Los Angeles Rams. I feel good about Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford when they're on the field. Puka Nacua did come up with an injury, but he's a great player. Their O-line is really, really good, and the defense, I think, is young and promising, although I feel like they're the reason they're not in the top 10. The defense is a little bit iffy, especially with Aaron Donald gone. I consider teams like Miami, Dallas, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, but I feel pretty good about the top 10 overall. Maurice says Eagles at 8 is criminal. If you listen to my explanation, I think you understand why they're there. I'm a little skeptical about the defense. I'm a little skeptical about the coaching. I think that the change is good, but I also feel like it's going to take some time, and I wonder if it's really going to have the effect that people think. I love the offense. I think it will be very dynamic. I'm also just lower on Jalen Hurts than other people. So that also kind of like, I guess, has an impact for sure. But I like the Eagles. I just feel like there's something missing with them, especially on defense. I just need to see their defense play. I feel better about the Bills. Ravens at 9 is comical. Must Lamar show you all every year he wins the second most games in NFL history? I don't know what you mean by second most games in NFL history. I think Tom Brady's ahead of him and Patrick Mahomes. But anyways, maybe third. I will say that Lamar's awesome. Lamar's not really the problem. The only problem with Lamar that I have is the playoffs. Lamar needs to play better in the playoffs. That has a small impact on things. I also feel like, Lamar is like, to me, like the third or fourth best quarterback in the league. That's just my opinion. I would say that in a big game, I would rather have Mahomes. I'd rather have Burrow. I'd rather have Allen. That's just me, though. I think those guys have played better in those games. I think Lamar's amazing. Lamar's not really the problem. I think the problem is the loss of coaches on defense. And I think the problem is the offensive line. Those are my problems. I think a natural regression is going to come for the defense because they were amazing last year and they played above their heads because, Kyle Van Noy, I know him really well. He's probably not going to play as well as he did last year because he's like really old. You know what I mean? Like just certain things about their team. Let's hear your week 1 picks. I can't do that right now. I'll do that eventually. Eagles says Eagles at 8, Bengals at 4 is wild, especially with Burrow and Hurts having similar numbers. If you think Hurts is as good as Burrow, I don't really know what to tell you, bro. Like Burrow is a much better player, much better passer, much more accurate. He's always on time. He extends plays better. He throws the ball on the move better. Hurts is a better runner. That's about it. Like, Hurts has more help. Like, his O-line is a lot better. Hurts has had one really amazing year. And Burrow, I wouldn't really look at last year because he was hurt the entire season. And actually, if you look at when he was starting to come back, like that Niners game he played, go back and watch that game. So, yeah, I just see those guys at different levels. The Eagles fans will see Hurts a different way that I see him. I just think Burrow is different. I think Burrow's different than Hurts. I think Hurts is in that like Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott type of tier. I think Joe Burrow is closer to Mahomes and Allen and Lamar. That's a different tier for me. CJ's already a top 5 quarterback. I like that comment. Good list. Appreciate that. Dude smokes rocks. Thanks, man. I'm not really going to factor in the health of Joe Burrow. Like, I'm not going to factor in, that's what I said about Lamar, right? Like, I'm not going to factor in Lamar's health either. Like, Lamar misses a few games. It feels like every second year. So I'm not really going to worry about that. I can't control that, right? The Chiefs, their entire team could get hurt this year. Who knows? It happens sometimes. Eagles' schedule, I think, is actually kind of easy, to be honest. They play like the weakest division in the NFC. The Commanders and the Giants are terrible. And I don't know, like you look at their schedule, which divisions did they play? I've seen it before, and I felt like there were not that many losses on that schedule. I feel pretty good the Eagles are going to win like 11 or 12 games. It's just that I'm not really basing my power rankings on how many games they're going to win. I'm basing it on like how good I think the team is, if that makes sense. I'm not basing it on, the Eagles are going to win 13 games. I think they're the best team in the league. They could definitely win 13 games, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're better than the Niners. You know what I mean? if the Niners win 12. Rams in the top 10, says Andrew. No doubt. Debatable. I have them at 11. Thank you guys for watching. Gonna wrap it up now, but appreciate everybody tuning in. There's a lot of viewers, so appreciate that. You guys can follow me here on BR. I'll be back every week of August with a new power ranking, and perhaps my rankings will change. I know they will change. So follow me for this video specifically. And then you can also subscribe on YouTube, The Bottom Line View. I cover all 32 NFL teams. Check it out, guys. All right. See you later. Peace.